Hello, everyone. It's Cream, aka Ms. Cream of the Crop. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Cream. As you can see, we've been flowing, we've been vibing. The vibrations are high. They're even higher today because we have Denis Ann Sumbry coming in to have an amazing conversation with us today. I'm so excited for you all to listen to this if you're listening to it on audio. I'm so excited for you to watch this if you're watching this on YouTube, because I already know that this conversation is going to fulfill you with all the things that you didn't know that you needed. So if you're interested in being inspired, empowered, fulfilled, and you need some inspiration, then continue listening or keep watching. Hello, everyone. It's Cream, aka Ms. Cream of the Crop. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Cream. As you can see, we've been flowing, we've been vibing. The vibrations are high. They're even higher today because we have Denis Ann Sumbry coming in to have an amazing conversation with us today. I'm so excited for you all to listen to this if you're listening to it on audio. I'm so excited for you to watch this if you're watching this on YouTube, because I already know that this conversation is going to fulfill you with all the things that you didn't know that you needed. So if you're interested in being inspired, empowered, fulfilled, and you need some inspiration, then continue listening or keep watching.
Sure. Welcome to Cream's World.
Hello, Denis. Thank you so much for being here and having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're
I'm
welcome.
very pleased to be communing with you today.
Finally, we're sitting down for this conversation.
Mhm.
And I am so excited about all of the topics that we're going to discuss today, because I think it is really going to inspire and empower all of our listeners and viewers. But before we get into the conversation, one of the things that I like to do at the beginning is to ask my guests how they're feeling. Like, how's your mental wellness? How are you feeling right now? So let me know.
Sure. So I am feeling very, it's a mixed bag.
Okay.
Just, with the external factors of this week.
Mhm.
And, yesterday was a pretty heavy day.
Mm-hmm.
So did a lot of resting yesterday in preparation for today. But in this moment, I'm feeling very curious and I'm feeling excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Curiosity and excitement. I think that for the most part, especially because I had a guest yesterday, but it was later in the evening, which I really appreciated that it was a later interview, because I would not have been able to be in the space that I should have been in to have a conversation. But I think it's a time where, as Black women, for the first time, we're really trying to figure out what we would like to do. Usually we are on go, and we are at the forefront of the battle. We're at the forefront of the plans, and we're planning. And I think right now it's almost like what it felt like during the pandemic, when for some of us, it was the first time that we were sitting still. It was the first time we didn't have anything to do. And we were trying to figure out, what do I do with myself in this moment? And I think that's what a lot of Black women are doing during this time, is really reflecting and trying to figure out what we'd like to do. But what I'm really happy to see us doing is encouraging each other to rest.
Yes.
And I mentioned this in yesterday's conversation, that I saw someone commented on Threads. They made a thread and they said, Black women, take off your cape, turn it into a blanket, and get some rest.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of us for encouraging one another to rest, because usually we be gathering up the troops.
Yes, absolutely. And that igniting of, so there's a shift here. In the past, it was this igniting of having to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do, defend,
Mm-hmm.
stand.
Mm-hmm.
And to put it very greatly, I think we're tired.
We are.
We're exhausted.
And I want to, from one Black woman to another Black woman, I am proud of you for being open and transparent enough to admit that we are tired and exhausted. And I'm proud of all of us for being okay, finally, within ourselves, to say out loud to everyone that we are tired and exhausted. Because those are two words that as Black women, we never wanted anyone to know that we were tired. We never wanted anyone to know that we were exhausted, because we have been taught for so long throughout many generations that we always have to be capable. Yes. We have to show up. We have to look right. We have to be available. And we can never let anyone know that we're tired and incapable of doing anything.
And it was almost tied to our strength.
Yes.
In an essence.
Exactly. And that's why we never wanted to say we were tired, because you never wanted to show up as
weak,
not a strong Black woman.
Correct.
We stood firm and 10 toes down on being a strong Black woman. There were strong Black woman cups, t-shirts, memes, Bible verses that we would find and quote, bookmark, anywhere we could plaster being a strong Black woman, to the point where that was something that men thought they had to put on the list of compliments for us. And now people don't call me that anymore. At first, I relished in that. And then when I realized what I was allowing to be put on me, I started correcting men that were like, because you're creating a strong Black woman. No, I'm not. I'm very weak. Yes. And I'm feminine and I'm soft and I'm all the things that I should have equated to me, so that you don't think that you can put undue and unnecessary requirements on me
and overfill my cup and my plate with things that are not like true to self and in alignment. Exactly. And so what you were saying earlier as well with going inward, right? And I do believe that rest is a form of resistance. And also, when you speak about like women reflecting on what it is that they really want to do, I would also just add there that what you want to do true to yourself.
Absolutely.
Not external factors outside of yourself. Yes. There's a distinct difference as it relates to showing up in your own autonomy, individuality, desire, things that bring you joy and light you up, and not what you think you're supposed to do or show up as.
Exactly.
And so the beauty in that is when you take time to reflect, when you take time to rest, when you take time to truly get to know yourself on a deeper personal, spiritual, mental, and emotional level, then clarity comes. Yes. There's an unearthing of what I like to say, that hidden intel that has been suppressed because of just doing things out of default.
Doing and being and existing for so long. Women, especially Black women, we've existed.
Yes. And it's time to live.
It's time to live.
It's time to live on your accord, your agenda.
Yes.
Your desires.
I want to add, and I have to look at the cameras, without guilt. Because I think that is what was holding us back for so long. It wasn't that we knew a portion of who we were. We knew who we thought we wanted to be, but we didn't actually know who we were, because going back to something that you mentioned, we've always been told who we were based on our gender. You are supposed to wash the dishes. You are supposed to clean up. You are supposed to cook. You are supposed to take care of and nurture. And there were all of these lists of you are things that we were told that we needed to be in order to be seen as a woman, a whole woman. And so we took those and put them on ourselves. But there was a part of us deep down inside that was like, but I really would like to do this. And we ignored that inner voice to be all the things so that we could show up the way that everyone else told us that we were supposed to show up. And a lot of that, I think comes from just a lot of Black families are very religious. Yes. So the church tells you who you need to be. The matriarchs of your family tell you who you need to be. But if you really sat down and had a conversation with your grandmothers, your great aunts, your great grandmothers, and had them truthfully sit down and talk to you, they would tell you, well, I really wanted to do, and I really wish, and if I were in another lifetime, I would have done this. I would have been an opera singer. I would have done all these things. And so I'm really proud of this generation of women, because we are saying, I really wanted to be an opera singer, so I'm going to go take some classes.
Yes.
You know, I really wanted to be a nurse, so I'm going to go take some classes. You know, and we are being fulfilled by the gifts that come from within us.
Yes.
And so we see this new movement of women that are choosing to not be mothers. They're choosing to not be significant others. And there's a generation that is angry at them for that. But I think it's just because you have to sometimes look at the shoes that these individuals have walked in and why the comments are coming from them. Because a lot of times it's not that they don't think that you can do it. It's just that they are disappointed in themselves because they, for whatever reason, didn't become who they actually wanted to be.
Yeah, that is potent. Hold on. I got
a lot, so I'm going to give you a chance to take that in and respond.
There's a couple things there. There's a couple things, Cream. I love it.
I was setting you on fire.
Yes, igniting. So, as it relates to what you were speaking to with our mothers, our grandmothers, our ancestors, and it's not only in addition to being told you should or you are, but it's also what we saw, right? When you think about, right, it's very secular, right? And so you have the projections, but then you also have what you've absorbed from your environment, right? And so I just want to say that, you know, there's a lot of factors at play, and to be careful not to judge oneself or fall into, you know, the emotional downward spiral of like, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know. Really,
you're still here right now.
You're still here right now. And I'm a firm believer that everything has happened as it should to get you to the culmination of this point right here, right now. And we started this conversation off with the vibration of curiosity. And I love that you brought the foremothers and fathers into this conversation. And if you have the benefit and pleasure of still having your elders present, I recommend women, everyone, to start getting curious with them and having those conversations. Like,
because you will find that strong grandmother that you looked up to her strength for what you saw her endure.
Yes.
But when you really sit down, if you, like you said, if you have the opportunity to, when you really sit down and get curious, as you said, a lot of them will be surprised that you're asking. They might give you a little pushback, but that's just the hard outer shell that they had to build in order to survive. Yes. We also have to understand that a lot of our elders had to survive. So, as we're saying, some of these traits are passed down, and we have to understand the generations before them and what they were enduring and what they passed down to our greats. Because if we are 2 or 3 generations removed from enslavement or segregation, they're getting that passed down to them where they had to survive and they had to develop an outer shell. So as we are moving through generations, we're able to shed some of that hardness, but we have to also understand, as I said, the shoes that they walked in order to understand why they had to develop certain traits that may be toxic.
Yes.
And we also have to be okay with saying grandma, granddad, uncle is toxic.
Yes.
We have to be okay with that. If we are not willing to be transparent and open to say that our elders are toxic, then we can't move forward, because in our community, at least for our generation, we're taught to respect our elders no matter what. And that has allowed them to continue to pass down this toxicity. So when we are willing to meet that toxicity head on and not do it in a disrespectful way.
Correct.
But we have to address it and say, I see you. I don't like it, but I also want to understand how you got to this point. And that's all a part of the curiosity. And within those layers, you will find out, well, this is what I really, well, this is what I really wanted to do.
Yeah. And there's something also about sitting down at the feet of your elders, being curious, asking these questions, removing expectations, removing an attachment to the outcome, just really
being
curious and open and being prepared to ask questions, and then asking another question and another question to really get to those hidden layers that our elders have hidden behind that hard shell. And I also know it to be true when you hear that wisdom, when you hear the vibration of your elders speaking about their past, their present, things that they would have done differently, the things that they are very happy and proud of, that is just another energetic activation within self, because it's cellular, right? It's cellular. There is a tingling that happens from a cellular DNA where it's like you hear those words, and again,
you'd be surprised.
Yes.
How inspired you become.
Absolutely. And it also begins to allow you to bring that curiosity from the elder to now that curiosity within. And you mentioned earlier about that little voice inside. And that little voice, when you have your life as it is today, and you are experiencing bouts of like, oh, this isn't really bringing me happiness, or this ain't it, this ain't it, this I'm not fulfilled, or maybe you don't even have like,
you don't have a clue or an idea,
but you may not know, but there's just an unexplainable feeling
it's
there,
a tingle inside that you know it's time for a change,
and it's reoccurring. There's a reoccurring thought, there's a reoccurring question within, there's a reoccurring emotion that's tied to maybe an external factor that's happening right there at that moment. And get curious about that. Right. And it's like almost like raised eyebrow. Like, okay, what is that? What is that? Okay.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying get curious about that, because I think that's where a lot of folks get stuck, is where they're feeling something inside, that tingle, that curiosity, that I don't know, that stuckness. But I like that you said just get curious about that, because a lot of folks don't know where to go, where to move forward. They may not know what they like. They may not know what their hobbies should be. So then that becomes frustration.
Absolutely.
But you suggesting get curious with not knowing, that is, I think, some really amazing advice, because I feel like, especially right now, especially with where the news is, unless you're happy about the news, I think a lot of folks right now feel stuck. I think a lot of folks were excited about the future because they had all these plans, and then that happened, and then now they're stuck because they're unsure of what's going to happen in January. And that's valid. Those are valid feelings. Like, I want everyone that is listening and watching to know that those are valid feelings for a lot of folks. And I think, one, going back to what we both said earlier, rest is important, because we can't move when we're exhausted. I think being hydrated is important.
Absolutely.
You can't move when you're dehydrated. Let's think of plants. Plants can't thrive in an environment that they aren't meant to be in. So let's be still so that we can hear the voice that needs to tell us our next move. And it may be yourself, whatever your spiritual, wherever you are in your spirituality, whatever your voice is. And I'm hoping that it's a good voice that's telling you to do great things and not evil things. So you need to be still, because you need to listen to that voice. You need to listen to yourself. Your body needs rest.
You need to nourish.
You need to nourish yourself. So that's eating fruits and good things, drinking water, being hydrated,
the sunlight,
the
fresh air.
Exactly. And in all of these things, just being curious about what's next, but not focusing on making yourself know what the next thing is. It's just being curious with what the possibilities could be.
Yes. And in the stillness, and I want to be very clear about this piece, you have this being still so that you can hear. And as you're hearing, ideas may be flowing. You may have a bit of inspiration or motivation, but also being still as that intel is coming to you. So sometimes we tend to get so excited and then we immediately act on it. And that's not necessarily the time.
True. And because when we're suggesting to be still, we're saying do nothing.
Yes.
Do nothing.
Yes.
We're not saying be still so that you can motivate yourself to be busy again. Yes. No. The purpose of being still is to be still and be okay. There is a Black woman that owns a brand. It's called the Nap Ministry. Yes. She has the books about napping, the importance of rest. And as you were saying, rest is resistance. Yes. Rest is being resilient. Yes. And she really focuses on the Black community and Black women especially, and just educating us on the importance of rest. And she has books out and everything. And so if you can, her Instagram is the Nap Ministry, and she just talks about just rest. Yeah. You don't have to have a reason to rest. And I think for so long, we had to have a reason to rest. Like, you remember back in the day when you'd be like, oh my God, you'd be a kid, like, oh my God, my back hurts. You don't even have your grandmother, you don't even have a back to hurt. Yes, you haven't been doing anything to be, why are you so tired? You didn't do anything all day. Be tired because you're tired. And that is okay. Yes. Yes. It's okay to be, I'm tired. We're not saying be lazy. Right. There's a difference.
No, absolutely.
There's a difference. We're saying it's okay to say, I'm tired. Yeah. And I encourage everyone to journal during this time. Not put it in your phone. I know our phones are right there in our hands, but there's something there's something powerful, I should say, about scripting. Yes. There's something very powerful about scripting. And I think, taking your advice where you were saying those ideas are going to flow, but that doesn't mean you need to act on them in that moment. That's the importance of writing or scripting or journaling, because you can write those ideas down. I think for some people, they feel like they need to hurry up and act because they're like, oh, I might forget this. Yeah. So when you're in your quiet time, bring a pen and paper, because you never know.
Yeah. Pen to paper is so potently powerful. And in addition to the capturing of what's flowing, what's igniting within, also utilizing journaling to process what you're feeling and why. Journaling has been pivotal in my healing journey. Yeah, especially when I'm experiencing emotional turmoil. And I don't want to share it with anybody else, right? Yeah. And unless it's my therapist. And I'm a huge advocate for therapy.
As am I.
Yeah. And getting pen to paper just allows that energy to be released, right? There's a processing and there's a release. Because when we ruminate in heart and in mind, that's where that stuck energy comes into play as well. So offering an element of processing and through journaling is just very, very, very potent. I'm a huge advocate for journaling.
And the other aspect of journaling, it allows you to go back and see how far you've grown. Because when because when you're living your life, you're in it.
Yes.
You can't see it. It's like when you lose weight and you go back and you look at pictures, or someone mentions you, oh, you've been working out. You're like, you can see it? Or no, I haven't. And then you go look at photos and you're like, oh my gosh. Or you put two photos together, you're like, oh my gosh.
I speak of my life right now. Like,
but it allows you to go back and see your growth. And that is where, because a lot of times you're looking for other folks to give you your flowers. Yes. So if you can't see journaling in any other way, look at it as a way to give yourself flowers. Yes. Because when you're in your life, as I said a few minutes ago, you can't see the growth, but you can go back and flip through this journal and you can read and say, oh my gosh, wow. do not feel like
Who's that woman? Who's that woman?
Yes. Wow. And then you get to the next chapter and you're reading your own autobiography, and then you become even more encouraged because you didn't realize how much you've grown and how awesome and amazing you are. You've always been, but now you're even more awesome. You're even more amazing, and you can see it for yourself.
So I want to speak on that a little bit more. So with journaling, not only going back in time to see your growth, right? Because at the point in time that you're reading your entry from a year ago, whatever that timestamp is, you're already a different person, right? So that path to the culmination point of the here and now, the healing that's been done, the lessons, right? The learnings, right? And hopefully, here's a key thing: you have to integrate what you're learning. You got to integrate it, right? Not just practice it, embody it, right? You know what else journaling also offers?
What?
When you go back in time, you can see where patterns are.
This is true.
You can see, you in the present moment, you can say, this is familiar energy. And personally speaking, I've actually sat in front of my journal and I said, you know what, I'm going to review through here because I'm not trying to respond the same way that I responded in the past.
Especially when it comes to relationships.
Baby.
When you read and you're like, why? You're like this. You're like, why? 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 Why did you keep journaling? Because over here you journal November 2022, and then now I'm looking at April 2023, and you journaled the same thing, and then I'm looking at June 2023, and now I'm looking at January 2024. You journaled the same. What is going? Why are you journaling this same thing?
Yes.
Because by now, this relationship that you journaled about should have been done.
Absolutely.
Because you keep asking, you keep asking God, the universe, spirit, for the same thing, and they're not bringing it to you because they're saying this is over. We're waiting for you to realize that you've written this down.
Yep, that's it.
For months and years, and we didn't bring it to you. And then you keep getting turmoil because we're trying to show you very loudly that this is not for you.
Yeah, that's it.
This is why it's not working. It's not working because it doesn't work.
Yes.
And we're waiting for you to go back and flip through those pages and say, oh, okay,
that part.
This is not for me.
Correct. And here's the beauty in this. As it relates to getting still and really beginning to learn yourself, right? If you're so still in the trap of doing and being busy and everything outside of yourself, you don't have the awareness to stop and pause and be like, oh, this is familiar energy, because there's too much going on outside of yourself that you're, captivated by, right? And you're not prioritizing yourself.
And when something becomes so familiar, it's familiar and it's comfortable. Correct. So you won't even realize, like you were saying, that it's a repeated practice because it's just something that you've done or something or someone that you're used to, and you don't even realize that you're just comfortable now. That part. In a toxic situation, possibly.
Yeah. And our emotions drive a lot where it's like, oh, this is now uncomfortable. I don't want to repeat this pattern or this cycle again. And so you're able to, in addition, go back into your journal entries and see, okay, how did I respond? What worked, what didn't work? Okay. And how can I choose differently in the here and now? But that only comes when you are self-aware. You're self-aware, and you create space in your day to be able to tap in, tune in, tap in, turn on, right? To, how you're feeling, right? What's showing up outside of yourself that's in alignment or not in alignment. And again, just getting curious about that, and how do you want to shift to have a different, outcome, or shift how you're feeling.
Absolutely.
And
I think we're growing into understanding when we are aligned and when we are unaligned. and being okay with doing something about it.
Yes.
Like I'm really proud of our community for being open to therapy now.
Yes.
Not just women, but men are open to therapy. Our families are open to therapy. They're open to having their children go to therapy. My kids go to therapy. Yeah. My family believes in therapy. So I'm very proud of us for being open and having these types of conversations on platforms. We're having these conversations with our friends, with our loved ones. And I'm proud of us. Mm-hmm. I'm very proud of us. And I continue to use that word because that's a word that we need to hear.
Yes, absolutely.
We need to hear because we are always having conversations about what we dislike about the Black community, what we don't like about Black-owned brands, what we don't like about Black men, what we don't like about Black women, what we don't like about this community and that community. We need to just start hearing more of, I am proud of you for this.
That part.
Because that is where you encourage folks to continue the good habits.
Yes.
You know, that is where you are showing them their growth. Because you're not pointing out where, you know, if you're in school and the kids aren't getting gold stars.
Yeah.
How will they understand that it's a good thing to continue being a good student?
Yeah.
We got to get the gold stars, and we have to start making that something that is familiar for us. So it's telling you that I'm proud of you, or telling another Black woman that I'm proud of her, or telling a Black man that we love you and we're proud of you should not feel unfamiliar.
Correct.
That should be, love should be a familiar feeling for our community. And we're trying our best to chip that way.
Yeah, for sure.
It still takes a lot of work because we have years and years and years and hundreds and thousands of years of just negative energy that's flowing through our DNA that we didn't ask for. And I really want us to understand that. It's not for us to teach other communities to understand that. That's their job to do that. But hopefully through our actions, they can then be interested and curious enough to want to learn that. But it starts with us, and it just starts with really focusing on being proud of one another, loving one another, and trying our best to fight this DNA that was passed down to us, and us understanding that these feelings that we have is not our fault.
Absolutely.
We're fighting so much that we didn't ask for. And that is a journey in itself.
Oh yeah. It's interwoven because you're fighting the external factors, right? Work, that's a whole nother matrix, right? Work, for those who are still at the hand of, corporate conditionings. That was my world, 20 years of corporate experience.
And sadly, it's a place where for some folks, they have to go.
Yeah. And
because you have to pay your bills, you have to eat.
That part. And also the external world of, even with social media, there's pros and cons, but we have access to a lot of additional information that our ancestors didn't. And there's an element of influence there. And you do have to be very mindful of who you're allowing to feed through that phone or that TV or through that radio, as it relates to protecting your energetic field and how you're being influenced and what's, being planted in your mind, right? And then you're also combating, internal fight, right? Just belief systems, conditionings, negative self-talk, and it's all rooted in the same source. It's all rooted in the same source.
That's why I tell people, when you are happy, when they're like, you're always so happy, I'm like, I work at this every day.
Yes.
This list that you just gave, there's even more items that can be added to that list.
Sure.
So when you see a Denis Ann Sumbry and she's smiling, or she's giving you positive vibes through her Instagram and social media posts, or you see a cream and I'm doing the same thing, please know this list is longer than this list.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we're fighting through this list to bring happiness and joy just to ourselves and exude that to the world. So every day you have to work at being happy. Yes. You have to work at self-fulfillment. You have to work at self-love before you can give it to anyone else. It has to come from within. But
it starts with self.
It starts with self, and it starts with that long laundry list of all the things we have. Okay, I'm checking off the negative self-talk. I'm checking off the DNA that's already running through my veins. Okay, I got to get in my car. I know I'm going to, hopefully this is going to be an amazing experience. I'm not going to run into someone who's excited about what the outcome was, because you never, every day is a new day, and you never know who you're going to encounter, but you have to personally be okay within yourself in order to engage with whomever you're going to engage with for the day, and be prepared for whatever interaction you're going to have so that you can have the best response.
Yes.
And once you have that best response, you still have to get back in your car and go home and then decompress.
Yes. Decompression. And that's so important.
It is.
It's so important.
And when you're doing too much, as you were saying, when you have too much going on out here, you never allow yourself to decompress. And then we're wondering why we call it walking around with your shoulders up.
Yeah.
You're wondering why you feel like a ball of stress in your neck.
You have to be intentional with segmenting throughout the day. Like the decompression, that's a beautiful point, because when you've had such a full day, whatever that may be, engaging with other individuals energetically, utilizing a lot of brain power. Maybe there was something that ignited an emotional stir. And then it's like, okay, my day, the physical day has ended. Now I'm going to go home, right? That's a transition. You're entering into another segment, right? And so many people laugh at this, but that's sitting in the car.
Denise, I was going to mention that. I was waiting. I didn't want to cut you off. I was going to say, I don't think folks understand that they need decompression, but I was going to put it in a context in which they could get it. I was going to say, when you go home and you sit in your car for 30 minutes to an hour, that is called decompression. That is why you sit in your car, because you need to decompress. And a lot of folks probably didn't understand that that's what they were doing.
That part.
Because you're like, I don't even feel like going in here right now, because you need to decompress before you go into another situation of vibes. It's not that you don't love your significant other, your roommates, your children, or whomever it is that you need to wait in a car 30 minutes before you go and interact with them. It's not that you don't love or like them. Some of you may not. Okay?
Right.
Some of you may not. That is a reality for some folks. It's just that you need to decompress from one situation. Because, some people go to work, then they go to the grocery store, they got to stop and get gas. They need to go to the store and get whatever whatever. So you've gone from work where there's a lot of vibes to a store where there's a lot of vibes. You might have stopped somewhere else where there's a lot of vibes. I'm pretty sure some people called you on the phone while you're going to and fro, and now you got to come home. So that moment is decompression in the car.
We have this thing in our energetic field called our aura, right? And that sucker extends like 7 feet out, right? Yeah. So I just want to expand people with their knowledge in this. So you have your physical body and your actions and what you're doing, the mental power, right? What you're communicating, the mingling with others, right? And then your aura that's beaming, right, is also mingling with all the additional energies that are in a space or in the grocery store.
Absolutely.
That's why some folks can go home and have a random thought, and they're like, why am I thinking about that? Because it's not your energy.
Exactly.
It's not your thought form.
Or when you walk into a space, you're like, something feels off.
If you want to sit in this space or you want to get the hell up out of there.
If this is an event where you're like, I'm just going to, Denise, okay, I'm going to look for all the faces that are familiar, hug all of them, take some selfies.
Yes.
And I'm out.
The true definition of, I'm just going to go show my face.
And again, this sounds funny, but I want to make this also be relevant for some folks. That is the reason why we laugh, but that's one of the reasons that we have that who all's going to be over there.
Yes.
Because you're doing a temperature check before you get there. And I don't think a lot of folks understand that we already practice self-awareness. We already practice protecting our aura and our vibes.
Yes.
But we call it, I just got to sit in the car before I go in, or we call it who all's going to be there. Yeah. But what you're really doing is protecting your vibes.
Yeah. And there's this thing of your higher self that's already emitting, right? And it's tapping into that future engagement. May I share the dress story?
You can. Wait, before we do that, I want to say this. I want to go back to something we said. And this is why we have to be okay with addressing the fact that some of our elders are toxic.
Yes.
We have to do that. Okay, right. Thank you. This is why we have to start being okay with that.
Yes.
And not in a disrespectful way.
Yeah.
And not in a negative way.
Yeah.
But
and not a judgmental way.
And not a judgmental way. But we have to start being open respectfully to address the toxicity of our elders.
Right. And it really boils down, because I always like to say, let's bring that emphasis back to self as well. And the simple way of saying that is whether that thing or that person is in alignment for me or not.
Absolutely.
Period, point blank. And so, and I also, with the sitting in the car, can I offer something with that as well?
You're the guest.
I think that this is a very important, because I want to encourage people to elevate their decompression time. Because sometimes even in decompression, we're still distracted. We're sitting in the car, right? Just using it as an example, but we're scrolling on the phone, right? Or we're checking text message and so I would just like to offer, when you're in your decompression, even if it's 5 minutes of that 30 minutes or 20 minutes, close your eyes and just connect to the breath.
Yeah.
Right? Deep breathing, right? And even walk yourself through a practice of mindfulness as it relates to, okay, I feel my feet, on the floor of the car. I feel my bottom in this seat, my back on this seat. I feel the piece of clothing, right? What do I smell, right? Like taking 5 moments to be present with self as part of your decompression. There's this element of connecting with self that is so powerful. And the easiest way for us to do that as a practice, as a tool, as a strategy, is through connecting with breath and connecting with our senses. No matter where you're at.
Yeah.
No matter where you're at. You could close your eyes, drop the window down if you're in the car, and just listen to the noise or the sounds that you hear outside of the vehicle.
I love that. I love that. Deep breathing helps me out a lot. And there are times where if I've been in just too many moments where I just feel my body is just too much. I'm feeling stressed. A lot of times, as you were saying, the distraction, we're like, oh, I need to turn on this song. I need to jam. There are times where I'm driving in complete silence and it feels amazing.
Yes, it does.
And I'm thinking, and I think to myself in those moments, like, I would have never thought that I'd be a silent driver, but it feels great. And I'm not turning anything on. I put my phone on silent and I just drive in silence. And there are times where that's happened and I got to my destination. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even remember how I got there, but I got there.
Yes, yes.
So I like that you gave that element. So talk about the dress, but I want to let our listeners and also those that are watching, we got to get into who you are because you're giving us these practices, but I want them to know that you are an expert in what your field is. But let's talk about the dress and then we'll actually introduce you as Denis Ann Sumbry and let them know who you are, because I realized we started this amazing conversation and never told anyone who you are. So let's talk about the dress and then we'll get into who you are and what you do.
So the dress comment essentially was just tying into the element of tuning in. If you're going somewhere, it was on the heels of when you were saying, like, who's all gonna be over there?
Oh yeah,
right. So your higher self is already like because survival, energetic protection, right? But there's also that element of honoring your intuition with that. And so just like for today, how you mentioned, I knew you were going to wear a green dress.
Yes.
And so to the viewers and listeners, when I came in, I was talking about, well, you acknowledged my black attire,
yes.
that you wanted to wear black attire, but you switched it because you were like, I just knew you were going to wear a green dress.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is I pulled out a green dress this morning, right?
The wildest thing, Denise, when you're talking about the aura, I promise,
I know,
I literally envisioned you in a green dress. I did. Like your face, I saw you in a green dress. Yes. And when you said I was going to wear a green dress, I was like, I knew you were going to wear a green dress today.
Yes.
And that's why I had a full denim outfit on earlier, because I wanted to match the vibe, because I knew she was going to wear a green dress.
Yep.
And then you showed up in black, and I actually had my black fit with me. And I was like, let me just put on what I really was going to wear. Yep. Because I'm like, you came dressed as me. Yeah. So for those that are listening, Denise has on all black and a black duster, which I have one of. It's exactly like this duster. Mine is a little bit longer. But literally, Denise is literally dressed as me. Like, I would wear this entire fit. This is me. But I changed because I envisioned her in a green dress. Yeah. So when you said that to me, I was like, I knew you were going to wear a green dress today.
So, and I just bring that up because when you center yourself and you're tuned in and you're going to be engaging with others, you're getting intel and you have to honor it. Yeah. Not that you have to anchor into a decision with it or anything, but you have the awareness of it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so, and just to close the loop on this, I end up changing my outfit because I am very intentional how I want to feel, and I wanted to feel comfortable. I wanted to feel, that's the main thing, just comfortable. And with the dress, like I was going to have to put on some Spanx, and then I was just like, oh, I just don't want to be tight. And, you know, and so I was like, what's going to make me feel comfortable? And all black is a go-to for me as well, black and gold. And I was like, I'm going to
black and gold.
Yeah, I said, I'm going to lean into what I desire. And so, that's.
And then you came dressed as me.
Yes. And we're both Capricorn.
Is it right? December Capricorn. That. And so, and when Denise came on time, which was 15 minutes before her time, I knew you were coming. I said, I know Denise is going to be here at 10:45.
Yep.
And you got here at 10:45. I knew it.
I love it.
I knew it.
So that just goes to show that you are tapped in, turned on, tuned in to your intuition.
Yes.
And trusting your intuition, not second guessing your intuition.
No. And I had to work to get to this. And that's why I mentioned that earlier, because I know that some folks may see, again, like I said, a you or a me. And it's not uncommon to be envious of some people's auras. It's not uncommon to be envious of the way you imagine someone lives their life. But I want folks that may be having self-doubt, and that turns into self-sabotage. I want them to understand that this is not a sprint. This is a journey.
Yes.
This is a journey to get to where I am right now.
Yes.
I know I'm a powerful being.
Yes.
I know that I'm a powerful being. Like when we had the conversation on the phone, and I said, if someone asked me if there was anything that I could tell my younger self, you know, so that she could change her journey, I wouldn't tell her anything.
That part.
I wouldn't tell her anything. I would just tell her that everything happens the way it's supposed to. Because if I changed anything, it's like that movie, The Butterfly Effect. If I changed anything on my journey, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I'm very proud of the woman that I am today. So I wouldn't change any part of my journey. Were there some parts of my journey that were unkind? Absolutely. Were there parts of my journey that I wish, or things that happened for me that I wish didn't? Absolutely. That I wish I could stop? Absolutely. But again, even the scary moments made me this woman. And I'm so proud of myself. And I know how powerful I am. And I utilize that for myself and for good. And again, going back to the aura that you spoke of, I know when I tap into myself, using your words, when I'm tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to myself, the aura is how I can empower everyone else. I don't have to work at empowering everyone else. My aura does it for me.
You just be your authentic self.
This is
as is. Bless it. Bless it.
Amen.
Bless it.
So as we've had this amazing conversation, we got to the journey of finally allowing Denise to tell everyone who she is and what she does, if you don't already feel this immense power and light beaming off of her, then you just are ignoring this. I don't know where you are. We need to help dig you out of that trench, because you have to be so far removed to not feel this and hear this or see this as you're watching this. But tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Okay. Yes.
I'm pretty sure they picked up on it. But
yeah, for sure. So, I'm Denis Ann Sumbry.
Hello, Denise. Welcome to this conversation.
And I'm a spiritual life coach and teacher. I'm also host of the Maven podcast, which is a new venture.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so as a spiritual life coach and teacher, a lot of kind of what we talked about is what I do. So my passion is helping people, primarily women, but I do help a few good men who show up, to get in vibrational alignment. So my expertise is tapping in and is what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you're feeling, what you're doing. Are they all in alignment?
Yeah.
And if they're not, then that's where the stuckness is present, where there's constraint, where there may be blocks and barriers that you're in a cycle, women are in a cycle of, they're just like, I don't know what it is. Right. And I'm able to bring clarity to that by helping women see that intel within themselves. I'm just the guide. I'm just the guide to it. Right. And ultimately, I believe that everyone should live a happy, fulfilling, and abundant life.
Me too.
Right? Like at the core.
Me too.
And I use the language elevated life for what they desire or deserve. But that is not a one shoe fits all. That's very different from client to client. So I meet clients where they're at, and I help them clean up their vibration and understand where those patterns, those cycles, where their language is not in alignment to what they're calling in and what their desires are. And we talk through that, and I provide tools, strategies, resources, especially in the spiritual realm of things at a mental, emotional, physical level to help them, make progress and call in what they truly desire.
Yes.
With the podcast.
I want to ask you a question about that. So, and then there's a reason why I'm asking this. Can you see? I'm not speaking like from a maybe it is psychic. I don't know. Let me just ask the question. When you meet with clients or you see people, can you already envision what their future or who their future self is or could possibly be?
Absolutely.
You know, I'm asking this because I can see that. So with me, the clients that I have or had were folks that in the past I was managing artists, models, a lot of people in the entertainment industry. And so going back to, I know who I am now. During that time, I knew who I thought I was. And as I began to go inward and just find more of who I actually am, I realized that, let me just give a little bit more context without really going into myself. So there will be times where I have clients and it will be frustrating because the client would not be there for the entire time of their contract. And so it just kept happening. It kept happening. I was like, what is going on? What's not aligned? Like, why does this keep happening? In my new season, and again, when we're saying we can reflect, reflecting back on that, I was like, okay, I get it now. Some folks are only there for seasons. I realized what my purpose was. My purpose was to be, because a lot of the folks that I had as clients, I look at them now and they're really successful. And they see me and they're like, thank you so much for everything. I didn't understand what you were trying to do then. But now that I'm in this part of my life, I get it now. And I utilize a lot of the things that you did for me now in this season of my life. And so that really resonated with me because I realized that I was functioning in their future.
Yes.
They didn't understand what I saw. And so, but that's because I didn't understand who I was. And I know this might sound weird to some folks. So this new version, well, I don't want to say new version, but the more I know myself now. And I realized that I was operating in their future. And that's why it wasn't working, because they couldn't see what I saw.
Yes.
And so now then I was taking it more personal, because I couldn't understand. I was like, I'm doing all the right things. I'm opening all these doors, and I have this network, and I'm taking them to places they've never been. And they're doing they have all these amazing opportunities. And I couldn't understand why they weren't appreciating it. But that's because they couldn't see what I saw. Correct. So they were operating in there right now, and they were just like, for whatever reason, they were just operating in there right now. Yeah. But I was operating in their future, so I could see their success.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't know that it wasn't what they were doing then, because all of the folks are very successful now, but in a different aspect. Yeah. In a different version of themselves. Sure. So they still are in entertainment and arts and creativity, but it's not as an artist. You know, they're not not rapping, they're not making music, but they are a part of that community as a business owner or whatever. But they're all successful now. So when I was working with them, I could see it. And I'm like,
yeah.
But no, this is really, so now I understand.
Yeah, for sure. And just to speak on that a little bit, so those clients, right, were perfectly designed for you at that time. Period. Right. And yes, your gift, your ability is to see, right, the expansiveness of their gifts, their purpose, their ins and outs, right? And the journey that you took them through in that point in time was also an element of activation, right? So even in whether it's professionally and personally, I like to say, there's aspects where we have to spoon feed, right? Even no matter your spiritual belief, we know the universe, God's spirit source is not going to give you more than what you can take in, digest, right, and show up as, right? But along that way, along that journey, you were planting seeds that were also activations, and I'll use that term again, igniting, right? And it's not instant.
No.
Right? They have to continue through their journey, their professional journey, their personal healing journey, right? To get to that culmination point that you saw.
Yeah.
Right? And so your gift is to be able to have that vision, right? And meet them where they're at now, right? And not withholding intel or anything, but truly being intuitively led, right? And utilizing the energy and how you're providing guidance and service to them. And ultimately, whether they're still your client or not, it's still implanted there.
It is.
And they don't forget you.
They don't. And you know what else? Because a lot of folks are like, I don't understand how you move the way you move, and things that I see happen. They say to you, I see things happen to you, and you're so graceful with everything. I've never seen you get upset about it. I've never seen you call folks out on social media. I'm like, because that's not my purpose. And that's not genuinely type of person that I am. Yes. I understand that everyone has a season in your life, and some people's seasons are long, some people's seasons are forever, some people have a short season. And as long as I empowered and as you said, and acted, ignited what I needed to ignite within you, within our season, I am okay.
Yes,
I am okay. And when I see you be successful, and it's like, well, they're successful without you. No, they're not. They're successful with me.
Yes.
You want to know why? Because going back to what you said, the seed that I planted is there.
No matter.
This is like if you planted a tree in the forest and you left and you came back and the tree is big.
Yeah.
I planted the seed and the tree is there. Yeah. So it's still a part of me. I still had a hand in this tree being planted where it is, whether I was there tending the soil or not.
Correct.
I tended it enough to give it the roots that it needed to withstand the growth that it was going to have.
Yes.
So that's how I see anyone that used to be a client, whether we still talk or not. I am proud of them from afar.
Yes.
I don't hold any grudges or anything because again, going back to the shoes, everyone has their own shoes to walk through, and not everyone shares what they're going through. True. And not everyone is ready for you. You may be way too happy for some folks.
Yes, right.
You may think that you're sharing your gifts and you're sharing your success with some folks, but sometimes you could be your own version of success and it may be too much for them. And that's okay.
Absolutely. And it's no matter where you're implanted in that timeline, you're part of the timeline. You're part of the journey.
And I'm happy for everyone. I really am. I'm happy for everyone. A lot of my clients are also women too. Yeah. But because I worked in the industry, a lot of them were guys. So, it takes a lot for some men to be submissive to a woman. And I understand that. So I don't take that personal. So tell us about you were going to tell us about your podcast. So talk about your podcast first, because there was something else I was going to ask you, but tell us about your podcast.
So recently launched the Maven podcast, where it's conversations for healing and collective change. And I sit one-on-one and have conversations and interviews, particularly with leaders, healers, creatives, entrepreneurs that have a particular mission and how they're showing up in the world and helping the collective heal, change, and evolve, but who also implement those strategies and more within their own personal healing journey and growth journey. There's a lot of rhetoric as it relates, you should do the work, but no one really talks about the how. And
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. And so with the Maven podcast, these conversations really digging deep into the how. And no matter if it's one listener or more, someone's walking away with a tool, with a strategy, with a process, and inspired to implement what they've heard and that intel to make a change in their own personal life or for their mission of the greater good of the collective as well.
I love that. So what inspired you to start your podcast? I know you've had a few episodes because it's brand new, but what inspired this podcast?
It is. We just launched the first episode last Sunday, and interesting enough, thank you, it's on rest. And I brought an expert. Her name is Danielle Graham. She's a yoga therapist who specializes in meditation and rest. So that's a very powerful conversation. I thought it was interesting that we led with that as well. So that's very timely.
I didn't even know that was the topic of that.
Yeah. So that's just
aura.
Come on, baby. Right. Like
we are tapped in.
So what inspired the podcast, a few things. Number one, in my prior world, my prior company, I just noticed a beautiful clientele base of very powerful and potent and authentic and genuine women who are in that aspect of those things that I described as being a leader or a healer, creative, entrepreneur, but who also have done hard things in their own growth journey, right? And I just had a moment where I was just like, people need to hear. They need to hear that. And I want, as long as the invitation is accepted, for these women and men to come on the show and share that story. And I know another gift of mine is being able to create a secure environment that allows one to let their guard down and be a bit more vulnerable than what they may be in a professional setting or privately with me one-on-one. And doing it in a very sacred and tactful way of getting that beautiful intel out to share with the world.
I love that.
I'm like, I want to sit down one-on-one with folks.
I love that. And so I want to bring this up too, again, to tie in how this is truly who you were born to be. So I met Denise 2 years ago at an event. I felt that I knew who she was, and I never met her before. I don't think I saw a photo of Denise.
Mm-mm.
I just knew that I knew who Denise was. And I think when you gave me your name, I said, I do know her. I had been following what you were practicing back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was subscribed to your newsletter.
Yeah.
There was something else I was subscribed to, but I wasn't following you on Instagram. I didn't even know that
Mm-hmm.
you had an Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
But I got all of your emails and all of the other spiritual topics that you talked about. And I have been following that for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But when I met you at the restaurant, for some reason, I knew that I knew you. But it was just so, I know we're saying crazy, but weird or whatever. The way that we met, we just started talking as if we knew each other. And you were with your friends, and your friends started talking to me, and then we scooted in, and then we just stayed tapped in for the rest of that weekend. And then we never stopped being tapped in. And I was like, this is the Denise. So going back to the aura and just being aligned, and how I already met you. I'm doing quotes for those that are listening. And we'd already kind of met each other, but in a way that we didn't realize that we met each other. And then we actually met each other. So,
and what I love about that is that my first memory of you in that encounter.
Yeah.
I was with my friend, shout out to Andy. We were sitting having, it was like lunchtime or something. We were at a big conference. And like I could pick up on your energy because you were sitting behind.
And I remember you saying that to me.
What I loved about that is that I was like, that's a woman that enjoys her own company. Because you were in that corner, you were in that nestled in that corner. You had your delicious meal, your cocktail or drink or what have you. And I mean, you were owning that corner of the restaurant. And I was like, oh, I see you, girl. I see you. And I like, I could, even if I, turning my head to talk with my friend, I can see your energy, your aura out the corner of my eye. And I was just like, and I knew in that moment, I was like, we're going to have to say something.
Yes.
Connect.
I remember you saying that to me. You were like,
I'm not going to let this woman.
Energy.
Yeah.
You're like, we have to connect. And then that's when we came together and we talked for a while at that moment. And then I was like, I've been connected to you this entire time.
I love that. I love that.
And this, I feel, is another and a great example to show others of being your authentic self, because you never know. You never know. Like, I didn't know how I would impact you with my aura just sitting there alone. But again, you meet people before you meet people. Absolutely. And you want to make sure you meet them at your best self.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And your energy, for me, what I remember, and I was just like, you give that energy of like, that's someone who I want to connect with, who I want to know.
I love that. I love that. Because this year I took my son, because I didn't go the following year. This year I took my son to one of the conferences, and we were leaving from like this post event that they had. And this lady, she's like, excuse me. And I turned around, I was like, me? She was like, yes, you. She's like, I have been seeing you all day. She said, I saw you at the restaurant across the street. She's like, I've just seen you all day, and I just want to know who you are. She's like, what do you do?
That's it.
What is your name?
Yeah.
Can I? And I was, you want to know me? She's like, yes.
Tell me more.
Yes.
Tell me more.
That makes me.
And it's consistent.
Yeah.
Because that
actually, you know what? I said 2 years. It's been 3 years, Denise.
I can't believe it.
It's been 3 years.
That's wild.
It's just wild that 3 years later, someone else met me because they were like, I just want to know who you are. Yeah. I've been seeing you, and she's like, I've just been drawn to you, and I just want to know who you are. Okay. So it is an amazing feeling to know that you are aligned authentically within yourself, and that your aura has a positive effect on others. So I'm that makes me happy.
Yes.
So I know that we did talk about your podcast. So I just want to make sure that you felt like you got everything, all the information out about the podcast. Is there anything else about the podcast that you think that our listeners and viewers need to know?
Yeah. So there's one additional, when you asked me like what inspired the podcast, and it's tied to really helping people with the how. And I'm very, very passionate with folks having the tools and resources to fill what I call their satchel. Right.
Okay.
My personal journey when I started to really heal, I didn't have people or resources. And so it was a very lonely journey for myself. And there's a big inspiration behind that no one should have to do this work alone. So a lot of the intel, the information that's shared on the podcast helps one like add different things to their satchel of care.
I love that.
And was a big influence to why I wanted to launch the Maven podcast.
I love that. And I'm always thinking of ideas. As you can see my wall over here. They can't see it, but the satchel of care, I want to post when we're done. I want to talk to you about that because I feel like there's some potential with the satchel of care that folks would be interested in. So speaking of that, I know that your books are open for alignment and tune-ups, and this is your gift. So talk to us about your open calendars and how you choose the clients that you choose to work with, because as you said, our auras speak for us first. So for you, so this is a multi question. Tell me how you keep yourself tuned in and tapped in as you work with clients, because if our auras affect everyone else and someone's coming in and their aura might be not where it should be, how do you keep that from affecting you and your aura? Also, how do you choose the clients that you like to work with? And then you can talk to us about your open book.
Okay, sure. So to answer your first question, it really boils down to, for myself personally, how I keep myself energetically attuned and in harmony. It's really about self-prioritization and self-preservation, right? So I come first in my day-to-day as it relates to my rituals and routines, at a mental and emotional level, primarily for me. And there's just different things that, and each day can look different for me, that I make sure that I'm tending to myself first so that I can pour into others. Another thing that keeps me energetically protected is in my work, I observe, I don't absorb. Period.
I love that.
Right. So I am just a witness. And I'm honoring that client accordingly, but I'm not taking on.
And this is why I want to reiterate, you must know what you're doing when you go into this line of work as a practice, when you practice this, because you could be absorbing the wrong energy and not understand what you're absorbing. So I like that you said that for folks that may think that this is something that they would like to just get into. It's not something that you just get into.
For sure. And I've also have set the expectation in a sense, and very, very much an intention that I don't work with everyone. Right. And there are energies, there are mindsets that we won't vibe, and that's okay. I'm not your person, you're not my person, and that is okay. And so I've been very diligent in, calling in the women and men who are in alignment to the medicine that I have to offer. And some of the things that, what I mean by that is, someone who's open-minded, right? We talked about that little voice inside. I work with people who are feeling and hearing that voice, but they just don't know what to do with it. And I'm here to help and guide that connection and communication with that. And helping, again, like that intel, helping the intel unearth within the people who I work with, so that it becomes clear and they're able to make a decision, because that's the other thing. You hold your autonomy, you hold your individuality, right? I may tell you what to do, but ultimately you have the choice if you want to do it or not. Right. And if not, then we find other ways that may be more in alignment. And so folks who hear that voice, feel that voice, but don't know what to do with it. Folks who have a yearning for more, but their life they've created a life that they're already moving and navigating and may have trouble shifting or even where to even begin to shift. So folks can book with me for what I call an aligned energy reading, and I just allow you the space to tell your story. And I pick up on the blocks, barriers, challenges, unalignment, and I provide that intel, and we work together on a plan to go from blocks to breakthroughs, whatever that may be for that person.
I love, listen, you know, outside of this, I have my marketing company. So everything you're saying to me in my mind, I'm like, ooh, okay, we can do this. And we can do that.
Yes, let's go.
Blocks of breakthroughs, the satchel.
Yes.
Okay, lock that. We're going to talk about that after this. Okay. So how can they book with you? Where do they go?
The most easiest way to assess accessibility to me is through social media. Mm-hmm. You can find me at Denis Ann Sumbry on Instagram, mm-hmm. primarily. You can click the link in the bio there. I'm also on Facebook, mm-hmm. At Denis Ann Sumbry. You can follow me. I'll follow you back. Send me a DM, or just click the link in the bio. Yeah. And my calendar and offerings are right there.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for coming and bringing a positive aura to today's conversation. I really enjoyed sitting down and speaking to you about all of the topics and things that align with me. Yes. This is my vibe.
Yes. Yes, likewise.
So people say this is my jam.
Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And I knew you were going to wear that green dress.
Yes, you did. And I'm so glad I was able to validate you in that thought, because I'm sure me walking in here in all black, you're like, hello?
This is not the green dress, and I'm too colorful today. Okay? But no.
I love it.
But thank you so much for sitting down with me, having this conversation, and being today's guest. I am thoroughly grateful. Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And for those of you that are watching, thank you so much for your support. If you are subscribed, thank you so much for coming back. If you're new here, welcome. And tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Share the vibes. Share the love. And find someone that you're proud of and tell them in person that you're proud of them today. Yes. Have an amazing day.
Bye.